The American people are so fearful of the government, and they forgot to be fearful of God.
And if there's one thing we should learn from the history of power, it is that governments rarely give it up. Once they accumulate it, they get drunk with it.
And where the left is leading us now is anything but safe pastures.
This lawlessness that is percolating throughout our society is the fruit of this rejection of truth.
The scale of violence that just happened in our city is unprecedented.
April 2022, Sacramento, California. 6 people were shot and killed and 17 injured by an alleged shooter who had been released from jail significantly early by a California plan to reduce the number of inmates. November 2021, Waukesha, Wisconsin. A driver ran over marchers in a Sunday Christmas parade, killing 5 and wounding 40. The driver had a criminal record, including an attempt to run over his own ex-wife. He had just been released on a $1,000 cash bond just days before. May 2020, Houston, Texas. A grandmother went shopping at a local pharmacy and was stabbed to death by a total stranger. The alleged murderer had been arrested 67 times and was out on 2 felony bonds. And on it goes in modern America, where too often there is crime and no punishment.
Our nation was founded on one principle called the rule of law. And that is that all of us have to have some order. And the police are an essential part of maintaining some civility and order in our culture. To defund them is to advance chaos. It's to weaken our way of life and to weaken our society because we have no rule of law. It is all part of the Marxist design to create chaos. For them, out of chaos comes a new order.
An example of crime-related chaos can be seen in parts of California, where the left has passed legislation whereby it is only a misdemeanor to steal anything under $1,000. The results are predictable.
And what happens is it's open game. It's, free opportunity for shoplifters everywhere. And the problem with that is it not only begins to make a mockery of our laws. Think about this as well. There are major corporations deciding where they're going to locate a pharmacy or maybe a grocery store. It also affects those that are in the poorer areas, the poor zip codes, because it is going to be even less likely that major corporations are going to put establishments there and minister to some of those individuals' needs.
Now, if you can get away with stealing $1,000 and not be prosecuted, some goods that are equivalent to $1,000, as in some cities, obviously that incentivizes crime. Why wouldn't it? I have a friend who said that he stole a magazine in one instance when he was a boy, and he was caught. He said that was the best thing that ever happened to him because he really learned a lesson: do not steal. Now let's suppose if he wasn't caught, let's suppose that he in time began to commit even greater crimes and steal more. If he got by with it, well, he could be quite a thief today.
I mean, there are consequences to all this, and the consequence is people are left safe. And people who are guilty are taking control of our streets. And that's one of the biggest impositions on freedom that I can think about. If you're free to go out of your house, you can say you're free, but if you can't leave your home, you're not very free.
You're talking about defunding the police. Like, everyone knows that's crazy talk, but suddenly you're told, no, there's a new reality. It is because people have turned away from God.
Some on the left advocate for defunding the police or replacing them with social workers instead.
And this idea that we'll just have a lot of social workers out there and not have police, well, how's that working in all the countries around the world, or even in 12 different cities this last year whose murder rate was higher than it's ever been before?
Since mid-2020, with the push to defund the police, we have seen a 43% rise of blacks being murdered, mostly by fellow blacks.
All of the people who have said, we want to defund police, want to take, significantly reduce the police forces, all of those people, governors, mayors of cities, and legislators in Congress, have doubled their personal security staff, or at least significantly increased their personal security. Now, if you are all advocating for defunding the police, why do you increase your police force? Why don't you go ahead and model it for us?
A case in point is Congresswoman Cori Bush of St. Louis. To this day, she calls for defunding the police, but she gets testy with critics who note taxpayers have to shell out $70,000 a year to give her special police protection.
You would rather me die? Is that what you want to see? You want to see me die?
How do you call for such a crazy mandate for the city of St. Louis and surrounding areas, and yet you personally, you make sure you're protected? A lot of them also advocate for completely getting rid of prisons, if you can imagine that. So we have the worst of the worst criminals out walking about and doing the most heinous crimes. If evil didn't exist, maybe we could make a case for that. But the reality is evil exists. And evil exists, it doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. Evil exists and could exist within all of us. And so with an evil element, we can't take the chance for citizens to be constantly put upon or set upon by evil people. And so we have to be kind of practical about how we go about these reforms.
The number one role of government is public safety. I mean, that's not something that anybody else can do unless you're a really rich person and have your own private, security force.
We need to wake up as a community and recognize the manipulation and the deception that is happening in our community by the progressives.
Ultimately, much of the debate in the realm of crime and no punishment, as we're currently seeing, gets back to different understandings of man's basic nature.
Do you believe that man is perfect, or do you believe that man is flawed? If you believe that man is perfect or can be perfected, then what you will do is you will consistently try to create the right circumstances for everybody to become better and better and better. And that's what we see going on, especially in California, that these people who are stealing $1,000 or less, they're doing a bad thing, but they just need to be provided the opportunity to do better. And so if you believe that man is perfectible, as the left, as the progressives do, then you're going to keep laws as streamlined as possible in order to get people back out on the streets. In fact, prisons are bad because in prisons, there's just a lot of people there, and it's not a system in order for a person to better themselves. That's their point of view. Now, those of us who have a conservative point of view, and especially those of us who are part of the church, understand that man is broken, and that the only thing that keeps us in check are God's laws. And so what we've got to do, as Romans 13 says, that what government is all about is for protecting us against evil. So law and order is only best if it's understood with the right understanding of mankind.